There are political fireworks galore over one nation, one election. The government says this is our big idea. It used to be like this starting from the 50s. We need to focus on governance. You cannot have political parties constantly worrying about the next election. The opposition says it's a desperate attempt to try and seize the narrative. This government is under pressure. They can't figure out how to bring the focus back on themselves, and therefore they've floated this trial balloon. Most importantly, can the BJP NDA government muster the two-thirds majority in the Lok Sabha, in the Rajya Sabha, and half the state assemblies to be able to push this through? To talk about this, I'm joined on the broadcast by S.Y. Qureshi, one of our best-known former chief election commissioners, representing the ruling BJP. We've got Guru Prakash Paswan from the principal opposition. We've got Shama Mohammed. Priyanka Chaturvedi is Member of Parliament of the Rajya Sabha of the Shiv Sena Uddhav Balasaheb Thackeray faction, and we've got Jasmine Shah, Chief National Spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party. I want to go across to S.Y. Qureshi first. As a man who's conducted multiple elections, do you believe, Mr. Qureshi, that now that the cabinet has passed one nation, one election, and we've seen the government take big decisions like the scrapping of Article 370 in the last term, can they push this through? Can they get it done? When I asked a senior minister about the lack of a parliamentary majority, they said on important issues, you know, some of these opposition parties, some of those who are fence-sitters, they tend to come on board. The government is confident of getting a two-thirds majority. Do you think it can get it done? S.Y. Qureshi.
Yeah. Well, I don't know whether they can ensure a majority, but I'll remind you that when the debate started about 10 years ago, Prime Minister wanted a debate for a national consensus. The debate has gone on for 10 years, but no consensus has been arrived at. Now, suddenly, when government got desperate that without some consensus, they formed this committee with the mandate not to go into the pros and cons of the proposal, but to tell us how to implement it. So, and now the cabinet decision. Now, the report of the committee itself is flawed. Where it has very, very funny recommendations, which I'll tell you if you allow me a couple of minutes. I'll tell you why. Now, first they say, and I was just hearing the spokesman, that the simultaneous election will be held in two phases. The moment you have two phases, it's not simultaneous election. Now, first, the committee itself said that when we say simultaneous election, we mean Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabha. Now, Lok Sabha, Vidhan Sabha together are 5,000 legislators. And it says the Panchayati Raj is separate, which is 30 lakhs. Now you have excluded 30 lakhs and you are talking of 5,000 people and a simultaneous election of that. Second ridiculous thing in the proposal, that the Panchayati election will be held in 100 days. Now, an election after 100 days is not a simultaneous election. It's a separate election with completely new bandobast, entirely new bandobast. So to call it simultaneous, it is funny. Thirdly, it says suppose a government falls midterm, there will be a midterm poll. Therefore, it is not a simultaneous election. And on top of that, this midterm election, normally a state election or any election is held for 5 years. You spend crores for a 5-year term. Here you will be spending crores for a 2-year remainder term or 2.5 years of remainder term. So exactly, this does not amount to simultaneous election. And also we have seen that the elections in the last 10 years, why were they not compressed? They were staggered. Even the elections which were always held simultaneously, like Gujarat and Himachal, they were staggered by 25 days. And what is the reason given? Because of the model code, staggered election, everything comes to a standard.
Okay, let me pause you there. You've set the grounds for this debate. You couldn't do Maharashtra, Jharkhand, Jammu and Kashmir and Haryana together, and you want to hold one big national election. Respond to what you're hearing from S.Y. Qureshi and explain, if that's the direction you want to go in, then why not just combine the current group of elections with the ones that will be held in November, potentially the ones that will be held in February, and bring that together? जो कर सकते थे वो तो करना चाहिए था ना अब तक.
Rahul, I think the former Chief Election Commissioner S.Y. Qureshi ji is making a very relevant point. And when he speak of developing a consensus, I think the consensus has been in the process since 1982. The idea of one nation, one election in India, it is not a new idea. It has been in discussion in the political discourse about the last 4.5 decades. So to suggest that there has been no consensus, there has been no dialogue, I think this sounds a little bit preposterous. Even the commission under the leadership of the former President of India, Ramnath Kovind ji, it invited public suggestion, and there were more than 21,000 suggestions. To be very precise, there were 21,558 citizens who participated in the deliberations of this committee, and of the 21,558 deliberation, 80% of the citizens were in favor on this idea. Point number one. Point number two, out of 47 total political parties, Rahul, 32 political parties. When we speak of political parties, they are the actual representative of the people's voice. They are the representative of the sovereign. So out of 47 political parties, we saw 32 political parties. They are decisively in favor of the idea of one nation, one election. 15 political parties are not presently in concurrent with the idea of one nation, one election. But I think there is a process which we can obviously have a conversation in the future. Second very important point that was made by the former CC S.Y. Qureshi ji is about the local self-government. Rahul, we boast ourselves about the decentralization of democracy, and none other than Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi brought the 73rd and the 74th constitutional amendment that actually meant devolution of power, that actually meant the devolution of decision-making power. But Rahul, I come from Bihar, and S.Y. Qureshi ji would be very well aware of the fact that Bihar never saw a local body election in the last 40 years. Can you even imagine? Maharashtra, which is the richest and the most expensive local self-body, the Maharashtra Municipal Corporation, it is lying vacant. The 27 councils of Maharashtra Municipal, there are no elections at all. So to suggest that having a 100-day period after the general election for the local self-government, again, I think this is something which we must think about. When you say that there is no historical background, the 170th Law Commission report, Rahul, senior Congress leadership, EMS Sudarshan Nachiyappan, a Congress leader under whose leadership the Parliamentary Standing Committee was formed, that committee was categorical of this opinion that we need one nation, one election or simultaneous election is an
idea. Let me hold you for a moment. Priyanka Chaturvedi, what is the opposition's perspective on one nation, one election? If you ask, most people are not obsessed with politics. They'd say it's good if all elections happen together, because then all political parties, regardless of who wins or loses, can focus on governance for 5 years. Why is that not a good thing for this country? What's your problem?
So before you ask me this question, just something that Dr. S.Y. Qureshi has already said. There is no problem. If there is a problem, the problem has already been expressed by the Election Commission of India, when he said that along with Jammu and Kashmir and Haryana, they cannot hold elections in Maharashtra and Jharkhand because of security concerns, because they do not have enough security to ensure that all four states go into an election together. For breaking the two state elections, instead of having 4 simultaneous elections, they broke it down to two states simply because they said that they did not have enough security apparatus. Now, there are 3 challenges. One is the expense of having this entire election procedure simultaneously, which has been reported multiple times through various committee reports, and Dr. S.Y. Qureshi can, I'm sure, can talk about it at length.
But ma'am, can I pause you to say that having staggered elections is also very expensive? If you combine them all into one election, it may be more cost effective than having multiple elections, ma'am.
Rahul, if you have a question of me, and if I'm sounding illogical, you can ask me a question once I'm done.
Okay.
You did not interrupt Dr. Paswan. You did not interrupt Dr. Qureshi. You have a problem every time opposition voice speaks.
Ma'am, make your point, ma'am.
The point is, as per the S.R. Bomai judgment, it goes against the federal structure. Problem is, earlier 3 committee reports have already spoken not just about the expense, about the security procedure, as well as mobilizing the manpower to conduct these simultaneous elections. Having said that, the third part being which I think Dr. Paswan has spoken about, oh, look, Mumbai has not had a municipal corporation election. I'm glad he's honestly spoken about it. This is something even the opposition has been saying. How can you not have an elections for 2 years just simply because there is a Bharatiya Janata Party which believes they stand to lose? So till the time Bharatiya Janata Party is not held accountable. Now today, what is a cabinet composition? There is a Jyotiraditya Scindia who pulled down the Madhya Pradesh government. There is a Chirag Paswan where Bharatiya Janata Party tried to destroy his party. There is a JDU cabinet minister who has slept with both sides, whether it is the RJD or the BJP, and multiple times over. Then you have a cabinet minister of Minde Sena. Now, Minde Sena cabinet minister has come there only because he betrayed his party thanks to Bharatiya Janata Party. Then you have Praful Patel. Oh, I'm sorry. Praful Patel is still not there, hoping to get into the cabinet. But again, broken up party. Who has engineered all of this? So when you go against the entire idea of democracy and constitution in terms of how we are seeing elections run these days, where the mandate could be for some other political party, but Bharatiya Janata Party by hook or crook comes into power, this is now doing away with all modicum of decency, of democracy, of constitution by bringing in something like this. So it is not feasible. It has not had wide-ranging consultation. He was saying 21,000 responses. 21,000 responses were sought only in English and Hindi. Many of the regional languages were not taken into consideration. So you cannot have a decision on the basis of 21,000 responses.
Okay,
And
the decision will ultimately be taken in Parliament,
so
where it will be put to a test. Shama Mohammed, this is going to happen as early as the winter session. Is the Congress ready for it? 47 parties gave their opinion to the Kovind panel. 32 supported the idea. Most of these are members of the NDA. Only one NDA member, the Naga People's Front, opposed it. 15 parties opposed it, including the Congress, AAP, Trinamool, DMK, CPIM, AIUDF, AIMIM, CPI. Ultimately, it will come down to numbers. If Guru Prakash Paswan's formation can get the numbers, they'll be able to push it through.
So, Rahul, Guru Prakash Paswan did not answer a question you were asking him. That is what even Priyanka said, is about the present EC, which said that we cannot hold Maharashtra along with JNK and Haryana because we need all the forces in JNK. So I fail to understand, if you could not club even Maharashtra, how can you, when you have Jharkhand, sensitive area, Northeast, very sensitive, Jammu and Kashmir, sensitive, Punjab, sensitive. Now you will be needing CRPF all over the country. So how is it going to be possible when you couldn't do it for just 3 states? Number 2, the other thing is the cost of the election. You said that when you hold it multiple elections, it's expensive. Now, what does the Kovind report, Ramnath Kovind report says? When the government falls, suppose after 2.5 years, according to that report, you will hold another election for 2.5 years, so that the 5-term, the elections happen in 5 terms. So when it falls in 2.5 years or 3 years, and there is a president's rule, you will have another election for that 1 year or whatever. So that itself increases cost. So the Kovind report itself does not make sense. Number 3, when you cannot stop a civil war in Manipur, what are you going to do with this one election, one nation?
No, but what does Manipur have to do with one nation, one election? I mean, now you're making tangential arguments which have no sense. Jasmine Shah, what's the core argument? If a government falls after 2.5 years...
Rahul, this is not fair. Rahul, this is not fair. Let me finish my last
but
point.
you need to, you're comparing apples and oranges. What does the situation in Manipur have to do with one nation, one election? Stick to the topic, ma'am.
Well, yeah, I'm sticking to the topic. I'm just trying to say that when you can't do something there, you're diverting, just like Khargeji said. One last point. You need 5 amendments in this. 83, 85, 172 and 174. You need constitutional amendments in this. For that, you need majority. So you can put it on the cabinet. You can put it across to the cabinet. But this is not going to happen because you don't have a majority. Without constitutional amendments, you cannot pass this bill. And
but that they'll find. If they have to push it through, whether they have a majority or not, they'll find that in the winter session. And if they don't, it won't go through. It's as simple as that. Jasmine Shah, what is the core objection? Let's try and understand what the opposition is objecting to, because most sane people watching will say, if there is one nation, there's one election and peace for 5 years where everybody focuses on governance and we're not constantly trying to do populist measures because we have an election to win, that's not a bad thing.
Rahul, I have studied this proposal extensively for the past 1 year. I was part of the AAP delegation that met with the former President Kovind panel, and we had a discussion on this. There are 2 fundamental issues. See, first and foremost, like most of the BJP ideas, like demonetization, this looks attractive in the vague form that it is presented to the public. But the moment you get into the details, you find this not just as a flawed idea, but a severely dangerous idea to the basic structure of the constitution as well as the idea of parliamentary democracy in India. But before that, let me point out, Rahul, that this idea cannot work because the current BJP government is thoroughly incompetent to organize even one nation, one examination. You see NEET examination, CUET, you can't even do one examination together. You want to do all elections together. My other panelists have already pointed out that you're not able to hold 4 elections together. In Delhi, we have demanded that fine, with Maharashtra and Jharkhand, you hold the Delhi elections together. But again, the BJP there is silent. So you have a severely incompetent government to do any justice to this. But now let's come to the core idea itself and why it is flawed and dangerous. First and foremost, the biggest point which Dr. Qureshi mentioned is that it is not a simultaneous election, because the moment in a parliamentary democracy, the government can fall anytime. And what the report says here is that after 4 or 4.5 years, let's say a government falls, nowhere in the world you have a mockery of parliamentary democracy that you go through the election and then elect a government for 6 months or for 1 year. It will happen only in India. We will be the matter of ridicule around the world, and you are going through the expenditure, you are going through the entire, cycle of elections, and what are you achieving? Nothing. Number two, the main contention of the BJP government is that, oh, we'll save a lot of money. Again, a severely flawed idea. The previous Law Commission reports, Rahul, say that 4,500 crores is spent on one cycle of elections. Why? Largely because of the cost of EVMs. Now, what happens in one nation, one election? You have multiple elections happening together. So you have to spend on multiple rounds of EVMs together, multiple storage spaces, far more military personnel, and it is actually going to increase the cost. So this is actually, it's counterintuitive that one nation, one election.
Hold that thought. Let Guru Prakash Paswan answer.
Finally, this timing of 4 months. Last point.
Okay.
Last point of this policy paralysis. Last point, just 10 seconds.
Okay.
You know, this entire thing that, oh, too many rounds of elections means policy paralysis. The government itself is saying we will take 100 days to do all election. My goodness, no country in the world takes 100 days in election. What is the problem if you split it 1.5 months of one round now and 1.5 months whenever the state goes to poll? So it is an idea only with downfalls. It is going to severely damage our democracy. There is no upside. This is nothing but a jumla.
Guru Prakash Paswan, in the interest of transparency, shouldn't the government have put out details of how much does it cost to do multiple elections at different times of the year over a 5-year cycle versus how much it will take to do these 2 elections? Then we can do a cost-benefit analysis. You know how much one election costs, how much multiple elections cost. And secondly, if you couldn't do 4 elections together this time round because it was complex, how will you be able to do multiple elections? The AAP spokesperson says you can't do one nation, one examination. How will you do one nation, one election?
No, Rahul, there are multiple allegations and questions for which I would request for some time. First and foremost, the spokesperson from the Shiv Sena, she mentioned about breaking of parties without any evidence, without any logic. So I think it doesn't make any sense. The Shiv Sena she is part of is in alliance with Congress Party, and Congress Party historically has suspended with evidence more than 50 state governments. So Congress Party or the India Alliance giving lecture on Indian federal structure is
no, why don't you answer my question one by one? How much is the
two,
saving? Does the BJP have an estimate for how much money India will save by doing one election or 2 elections versus multiple elections?
Rahulji, I have a great amount of respect. You have had 3 spokespersons against me. They have raised some very valid concern. I allow some time to respond to these allegations, and I will come to your question as well. One election cost, as per the ECI data, is 60,000 crore. The last data which has come out, the 2019 parliamentary election, it costed 60,000 crore. So there is definitely, when we come with the idea of one nation, one election, the cost effectiveness is going to come automatically. But the point is different. The point is this, that when we speak of it, it is just a build-up, it is just a follow-up on the historical foundation. Like I quoted, 170th Law Commission report, EMS Sudarshan Nachiyappan report. The Kovind committee has laid out a very well-synchronized idea of having a national and state elections simultaneously. It has proposed 2-phased election, national and state election, and 100-day plan for the panchayat elections as well. But at the same time, let me respond to the concerns that were raised by the spokesperson from the other political parties. Aam Aadmi Party spokesperson spoke about the competence of the government. Who are you? Who are we, Rahulji, to decide the competence of the government or the legitimacy of the government? The people of India will decide the legitimacy of any government. And the people of India has given a historical, remarkable 3rd term to Prime Minister Modi, which has rarely happened in the history of our country or in the history of world politics. Barring Margaret Thatcher and Tony Blair. No, come. Rahulji, aapne in logo ko allow kiya.
Shama Mohammed, let him speak, otherwise he won't let you speak. Very quickly get to answering my questions.
They're talking.
How much is the cost saving? How much is the cost saving if we were to do this?
Rahulji,
he has no answer.
They are talking about Manipur. They are talking about other elections. They are talking about Manipur. Go speak on. You speak on Manipur. You speak on Manipur, you speak on XYZ, so
Guru
you have
Prakash
to have the
Paswan, please
patience to
answer
listen
my
to other
question.
people as well.
Does this
We live in a
government have an
democracy, we don't live
estimate
in a
for how
Sharia.
much is the cost saving
We
if we do one nation, one election versus the current format of multiple elections? Do you have a number? How much will we save?
No, that we will. No, that we will. Rahulji, that will definitely come out. But the point is this: you are asking me a question that how can you hold 4 elections simultaneously? This is such a regressive and a backward-looking point. 10 years ago, Manmohan Singh said that the biggest threat to internal security is left-wing extremism. Today, we are at the elimination of left-wing extremism. So just to suggest that if we cannot do anything today, we won't be able to do it anything 5 years down the line or 10 years down the line, this is just preposterous. This is just foolish to suggest that if we are not able to pull off anything today, we won't be able to pull off anything 5 years down the line as well. People used to say 370 abrogation will not happen, but abrogation of 370 happened. We eliminated left-wing extremism. Similarly, if we are not able to do 4 elections today because of security concern, 5 years down the line, we will definitely be in a position to conduct one nation, one election, which will again, I am suggesting, will be an extension to what the Congress party or the previous political leadership has suggested in the Law Commission report. In the
Let me hold you there for a second.
So to suggest
Priyanka Chaturvedi, just 1 second, sir. Priyanka Chaturvedi, even now, there are states where assembly elections are held simultaneously with Lok Sabha elections. States like Andhra Pradesh, Sikkim, Arunachal, Odisha, and they happen well. You've got a setup which is already in place for a big national election, and in 4 states you conduct an assembly election simultaneously. Why can't that be extended pan-India? Surely it can be done. What's your concern?
My concern is just this, that these simultaneous elections go against the spirit of democracy, go against the spirit of accountability. And that is why the simultaneous elections do not make a good idea. And also, these elected governments that come into place for a tenure of 5 years, you're talking about dissolving them, and you're talking about elections to happen simultaneously. The second problem being, if there is a hung parliament or there is a hung assembly, or assemblies, governments are pulled down like Bharatiya Janata Party has mastered the art of pulling down governments by, undermining the constitution. What happens then? How do we address that? Again, we are only going on talking on the basis of a committee report which has been accepted by the cabinet. However, we do not know the contours of the bill. And last but not the least, listening to the response of Mr. Paswan, I'm pretty certain the several U-turns that they've had in their 100 days, this is also headed towards a U-turn. Just like the UCC, just like the various other things that were spoken about by the Prime Minister, even the one nation, one election is heading towards a U-turn simply because it's not implementable. B, they do not have any clue. C, they do not know how the bill will be presented. How will it be drafted? How will they get the 2/3 majority in the assemblies as well as in the center? So they can continue to talk about it to divert attention from various other challenges that India is facing. And it is, like I said, heading towards a U-turn.
No, but Shama Mohammed, surely the government has thought this through. If Ashwini Vaishnav is doing a briefing and they're coming and speaking in a cabinet briefing, explaining they'll bring the bill, then it's their credibility on the line. If the opposition thinks they have the numbers, you oppose it. Let the people of India find out if the government has a 2/3 majority in the Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha and half the state assemblies or not.
So first to Guru Prakash, I just want to tell you that you keep saying that I want to talk about Manipur. Yes, Manipur is part and parcel of my country. I love the people of Manipur and we'll continue to talk about Manipur. If you don't like
But
it,
this is not
it
about
is your
election. The
problem.
debate is not about Manipur,
Number two,
the debate is
number
not about
two,
Manipur.
Guru Prakash Paswan,
It is about one
Demonetization.
nation, one election.
Fade it down.
Your
Let Shama Mohammed speak. Shama.
Yeah, demonetization, flopped. Farmer bill, flopped.
Ma'am, please come to this topic. Shama Mohammed, you're digressing. Do not, this is very school, college level debating tactics. I'm discussing one nation, one election. If you have an argument to make it.
Rahul, you asked me a question that.
But you're not answering that question, Shama Mohammed.
No, you asked me the question, hasn't the government thought through if they put this across? Didn't you ask me that? So I was telling you the reply to that, didn't they think through demonetization? Didn't they think through the farmer bills? And I'm giving you an answer to that. That is not digressing from the topic or the question you asked me. Number 3, the most important thing. The questions we have asked Guru Prakash about how does he manage when the government falls and there is an election happening 1 year before, 2 years before, 6 months before, the Kovind report says you will do another election. So how do they cut the cost? He has not answered that.
No, because all assemblies won't fall. I don't buy that argument. No, one second. I don't buy that argument. Jasmine Shah, you made the same argument. If there are 28 assembly elections, even if a few governments fall, there'll be 3, 4, 5 elections that happen midterm. For the other 20 plus states, you won't need elections. Many of the governments will be stable governments. Jasmine?
No, but at what cost to the people who have to go for the election process again? Rahul, this is very important to, like, for narrow gains, not narrow gains. First of all, you are going to lose more money by simultaneous election. But
No, why do you think you'll lose more money? Why do you think you'll lose more money?
Which is an equal opportunity in election. No, I will tell you why. Think about a candidate. Think about a candidate from a smaller party or an Aam Aadmi party which does not have the kind of coffers because electoral bonds money have gone all to BJP. In a span of 5 years, if a government falls, you end up fighting 3 elections. And the most ridiculous thing, which has not happened anywhere in the world, is that even if 6 or 8 months before an election, your assembly is dissolved, you will fight again another after 8 months.
No, but why are you citing the possibility of the exception and making that your principal argument? That may happen in the odd case, it won't happen in 28 cases.
Rahul, not at all. Rahul, in a parliamentary form of democracy, the entire structure lies on having the confidence of the House. Numerous number of times houses have not given confidence and governments have fallen, in center also and at the state also. It's not once in a generational event, it happens probably once every 1 or 2 years. Now let me answer the question you asked Guru Prakash, which is kitna paisa bachaoge. He has not read the Covid committee report. I'll read just one line and he'll tell you this is entirely a Hawaii idea. Para 15 of the executive summary of the report says that the Election Commission of India and the state commissions may carry out an appropriate exercise to prepare a suitable plan and estimate for conduct of simultaneous elections. So you have gone ahead, proposed an idea, cabinet has accepted it, you have no idea kitna paisa lagega. This is exactly
so there is an estimate.
Just like
just 1 second.
Was,
there is an estimate. The Niti Aayog has a report that they put out.
You are trying to damage the democracy and you have not even calculated how much will it cost.
No, so Priyanka Chaturvedi, there's an estimate by the Niti Aayog which says that at this moment, in this 5-year election cycle, it costs 10 rupees per voter per year. The Niti Aayog estimates that in the new cycle, where there's one election and then the smaller panchayat election, it will cost 5 rupees per voter per year. That's basically they're saying you could reduce by half the amount of money it costs to conduct elections in India over a 5-year period.
Actually, 2 things, Rahul, before I answer your point. Just 1 point. Out of the 32 parties that Mr. Paswan mentioned, let me tell you, 24 of those parties do not even have a single member of parliament. Out of which only 2 parties have 2 MPs. 7 parties have only 1 MP. So the 32 party number that he gave who are in agreement of this entire process is actually ridiculous. Now the second point that you said, Niti Aayog has come up with this. Election Commission has another report which totally goes against what Niti Aayog has said. Election Commission says it will be a more expensive idea and it would need constitutional amendment and it would have its challenges which I've already spoken about earlier. So this is also contested. We will only know once there is a committee which actually sits down and measures the expenses that would be needed, right from setting up EVMs to VVPATs to security forces to manpower mobilization to ensuring the booths that are there, to ensuring just about every single aspect of an election happening simultaneously on all 3 layers of governance. So that is where the question arises. So
but ma'am, can I pause you to say that that is already being done? When a Lok Sabha election happens in 543 constituencies, you're already setting up all the polling booths. You're only doing both elections simultaneously, the Assembly and the Lok Sabha. In any case, you're doing Lok Sabha elections. And in many states, like Orissa, like Andhra Pradesh, like Arunachal, like Sikkim, you're doing the Assembly election already. So there is a template that exists.
No, is that a question for me?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
So if there is a template that exists, what stopped the Election Commission to allow the same template that has been continuing over the years to have Haryana, Maharashtra, Jharkhand election to happen this year? I'll tell you why it didn't happen. I'll tell you why Maharashtra didn't happen. Maharashtra did not happen because BJP sees a spectacular defeat and they know that they have at the last minute introduced a Ladki Behan Yojana after seeing the Lok Sabha results. They want to put some money into every account, try to get the political benefit out of it, and try to push the election as far as possible. This is the only reality, and I hope we wake up to the idea of Bharatiya Janata Party setting out these red herrings and then taking a U-turn because they've distracted the country into making observations of things that are not of prime importance. What is of prime importance is that we have local body elections which have been pending for long. We have an accountability which is still waiting at the Chief Justice of India's table, where we need to understand that is it okay to pull down governments, to take away election symbols, to take away political parties for the benefit of one single
Guru
party.
Prakash Paswan, respond to Priyanka Chaturvedi's charge that local BMC elections have been delayed because the BJP isn't sure it will win. You pushed Maharashtra beyond Haryana because you weren't certain of what will happen. You thought, let the Ladli Behin scheme roll out. Let's see if we can take advantage. If you're taking such tactical decisions, how can you suddenly be expected to take a more macro decision in national interest? Your recent actions suggest that the decisions are very transactional based on what you think suits your party.
No, Rahul, I think you have answered your own question. Every decision cannot be viewed in the light of elections. Ladli Lakshmi Yojana or Ladli Behna Yojana or any government decision, any policy outcome that is coming out, you cannot equate it with the election decision. Number two, you have asked a question in the previous time about the amount which is going to be saved. There is an Economic Times report. The ET report categorically states that a potential of 12,000 crore. 12,000 crore saving opportunity. Why India Inc. is a fan of one nation, one election. 12,000 crore. In the tune of 12,000 crore.
Sir, we spend 11 lakh crore rupees on capital expenditure. If the saving is only 12,000 crore rupees, is it worth it? Is that the reason why we are doing it? To save 12,000 crore rupees when your revenue budget is 44 lakh crore rupees?
It is one of the reason.
Rahul,
It is one of the reason 12,000 crore, Rahul ji, in the last 10 years. Rahul ji, when other people speak, you allow them to speak when I'm speaking. This is not appropriate. When I'm speaking, please allow me to speak.
The good thing here is that everyone thinks I'm being equally unfair. If the charge was coming from any one person, I'd be very concerned. But if everybody thinks I'm being unfair, I'm probably just doing my job. In fairness, let Guru Prakash Paswan complete his argument. Go on, sir.
No, you are not. No, you are not being unfair to Priyanka ji. Obviously, she is a senior member of parliament. But point is different. 12,000 crore. And why is 12,000 crore important, Rahul ji? In the last 10 years, 60 crore people. We have seen 60 crore people receiving Awas, receiving Bijli, receiving Pani, receiving bank account, receiving opportunities for self-employment. So 12,000 crore is important. And like you said, the question of policy paralysis, the UPA 2 era, we very well remember the era of GOM, group of ministers. Why GOM? Because of policy paralysis. The indecisiveness of the government. And when you speak of us, when you speak of U-turn, the last 10 years have seen historical decision making. Be it Article 370 scrapping, the formation of Ram Mandir, the GST, insolvency and bankruptcy code. There are so many reforms that has taken place in the last 10 years. So to suggest that we have taken U-turn, the last 100 days of the government, there have been some decision. But that is reflective of a government that listens to people. A government that listens to the marginalized communities, and marginalized communities also remind me that Bahujan Samaj
Let me hold you there. Jasmine Shah, coming on Guru Prakash Paswan's argument that there's a 12,000 crore rupee potential saving, and that's one of the reasons why they want to do this, apart from the fact that you can focus for 5 years on governance.
Rahul, look at the pitiable condition of Guru Prakash. He belongs to the ruling party and the government, and he has to rely on some unauthorized or unverified reports of a newspaper, whereas his own committee, the Government of India set committee, Covid committee, says that we have no clue. I just read out the exact para 15 of the report. It says hame koi idea nahi hai. Somebody is quoting here, somebody is quoting there, and I'm telling you the reality is, if you put down the numbers, this is a far more expensive idea. And Guru Prakash is saying 12,000 crore बचा के हम पूरा देश का कल्याण कर देंगे. Did you not think about it when you waived 15 lakh crores of loans to your rich corporate friends? 15 lakh crores of loans have been waived by the BJP government. तब आपको पैसे बचाने का ख्याल नहीं है. You gave corporate tax cuts of 10 lakh crores.
आप झूठ बोल रहे हैं.
No, this is all that. These are all data which your own government has put out.
This is a
that
white
tax
lie.
waivers of 15 lakh crores have been given by your government. So please don't. Please don't interrupt. Guru Prakash,
no, one second. We'll digress in this fashion, and that serves no purpose. Let's try and lift the quality of the debate, not bring it down. Jasmine Shah, 15 seconds. I need to wrap up.
I'm not being allowed to. No, absolutely. I am only saying that there is no data in this report. The entire basis of today's cabinet decision is a report which is only text. It has no analysis. It has no data. which means that ये पूरा हवा-हवाई idea है. This is a gimmick, a jumla being played out on the people of the country, just like demonetization has been, and a government that cannot organize even one nation, one examination has no right to talk about one nation, one election. और अगर है भी आप में confidence तो then do the Delhi elections along with Maharashtra and Jharkhand.
Final words, Shama Mohammed.
Ultimately,
it boils down to Parliament. In the winter session, can the BJP get 2/3 majority? You know, if you're wondering what the numbers stack like, I'll take you through the numbers as they are at this moment. In the Lok Sabha, the BJP NDA has 271 MPs, 240 are from the BJP, one short of a simple majority. Some of the parties, if you add the ones like the TDP who are supporting them, they go up to 293. There are 15 parties with a strength of 205 who are opposing it. So these are India bloc parties, they are opposing it. Then you've got some parties in the middle who they can try and pull to get to that number of 362. That's as far as the Lok Sabha is concerned. In the Rajya Sabha, the NDA has 115 MPs, excluding the 6 nominated MPs. The India bloc has 85 MPs. If 250 are in Parliament, they need 164 MPs to get through. It will ultimately come down to a show of numbers. If they have the numbers, like Article 370, they'll be able to push it through. Or it's the opposition's turn to shine in Parliament. It comes down to who has the numbers, Shama Mohammed.
Yeah, so when they passed the 370, Rahul, they had a proper majority in Parliament. I mean, their BJP itself had majority. And then, of course, the alliance partners. But now they do not have, and I'm telling you, they will not be able to pass this. The other important thing is the small parties will not agree on this. See, basically, it is more for the national parties. This national party, of course, the BJP gains. But for the smaller party, it goes against the federal structure. Having one nation, one election goes against the federal structure. You will slowly see the disappearance of the regional parties once this thing happens. So according to me, the regional parties will go against this. This is not going to happen because it is against the federal structure. And I'm telling you today, mark my words, this bill will not go through
it will come down to the show of strength in Parliament. Both Guru Prakash Paswan and Priyanka Chaturvedi have their hands up. So Priyanka, I'll start with you. 10 seconds. Make a very quick final comment, ma'am.
I just like to tell Mr. Paswan that 16,000 crores is a proven amount that Bharatiya Janata Party got through electoral bonds. 12,000 crores of saving, over 16,000 crore worth of electoral bonds that Bharatiya Janata Party got is a very ridiculous amount to quote to justify one nation, one election at the expense of doing away with federal democracy, with democratic structures and constitutional principles. Just that little point. 16,000 crore to aap hi
final words, Guru Prakash Paswan.
bonds ke madhyam se.
One nation, one election, Rahul ji, is an effort towards gradual cleanup of the system. All those parties who are opposing one nation, one election are the same political parties who are found with stash of cash. 300 crore, 500 crore found by the Congress leader, 600 crore by the Shiv Sena leader, so many cartons of alcohol being distributed. So once this idea of one nation, one election comes, the gradual cleanup of the system will start, and these parties, Lalu Yadav will oppose one nation, one election, Shiv Sena will oppose one nation, one election, Aam Aadmi Party will oppose one nation, one election. All those parties who are against one nation, one election, they are for the rampant use of black money.
So I'm out of time. You've heard different political formations and where they stand. Here's what I wish to say in conclusion. At this moment, we have way too many elections. We have elections now in October. We'll have elections in November. Then there'll be elections in February in Bihar, in Delhi, and then in October in Bihar. This is way too many elections. Every few months, it takes away from governance. There should be lesser number of elections. Maybe there can be elections bunched together once in the year, and you bring all the elections together and you do it just 5 times in 5 years. Or you have 2 elections. So you have midterms, you bunch together all the elections, and then you have elections at the end of the 5-year cycle. That probably is a better way of doing it. Can you make this happen? The government thinks it's a big idea. Ultimately, a democracy is about who has the numbers, who has the majority. At this moment, on paper, they do not have a 2/3 majority, but they didn't have a 2/3 majority when they brought Article 370 and they were able to muster the majority in Parliament. Can they do it again? Will this go through straight? Will it potentially go to a parliamentary standing committee and go through the process of legislative consultation? We will track all that and more. This is the government's big idea and they're determined at this moment to push it through. I want to thank all our guests for joining us on the News Track and participating in this high quality conversation.